Let's go to the other side of the United States. In Seattle is James Long, a professor of political science and the co-founder of the Political Economy Forum at the University of Washington. Professor, thank you so much for your time. By the way, an hour ago, I asked a former official at the Department of Homeland Security whether he thought there was a high likelihood of Donald Trump going to jail. He didn't answer the question. Would you care to?
Well, Donald Trump, of course, enjoys the presumption of innocence up until this point. And although the indictment, when it was unsealed on Friday, is fairly lengthy, we don't know the full range of evidence that the prosecution has. So I think it's way too soon to suggest whether or not Donald Trump would be found guilty, and if so, whether or not there would be a prison as a punishment for that if he's found guilty.
Can we presume that the case that the special counsel is bringing and laying these charges against Donald Trump is strong simply because of the kind of people who gave evidence to the grand jury?
Yes, I think there's a lot of indication in the indictment that the case is fairly strong, that there's a lot of evidence there to support the prosecution's theory of the case and the facts that they will bring to bear in trial. Not only testimony from those who work with Donald Trump, but also testimony from Donald Trump himself, particularly if some of the evidence was caught on tape.
Close aides, household staffers, even former lawyers who resigned, they gave evidence to that grand jury. In terms of where this is taking the United States, people seem to be making decisions based on personal opinions rather than just the course that U.S. law will take in a case like this. And you're quite right, innocent until proven guilty. But we've had Donald Trump already promising that if he becomes president in next year's election, he's going to open an inquiry into Joe Biden and Joe Biden's family. And that seems to be an indication that things are slightly changing in the way politicians make their decisions.
Well, like all things Donald Trump, this is completely unprecedented, and it continues to become unprecedented. He's, of course, the first president to be indicted once after or former president being indicted once, and now he also holds the record for the first president to be indicted twice on criminal charges. I think you raise a good issue, which is that because he is able to run for president and could even be elected again, we should expect, regardless of how the specifics of this trial or the one in Manhattan play out, I think we should expect Donald Trump to continue to use this to rally up support, to get donors to his campaign, to get people out to vote for him. And I take him at his word that if he were to be elected again, that he would then use the Department of Justice and other apparatus of government at his disposal to try to go after his perceived political enemies. In fact, that's the entire basis of the platform of his campaign right now. One, that he's the victim of overzealous prosecution, but two, that if he's elected again, that he will then become zealous himself and go after his perceived political enemies.
How much do you think of a silver bullet, that tape recording that the prosecutors say they have, in which Donald Trump admits that he's holding classified documents without having the proper permission? Because a lot of his defense presumably will be, for some of the documents at least, I declassified them.
That's correct. I think all of Donald Trump's discussion thus far about his ability to declassify and how he did it has mostly been incorrect. So I think the tape could do a lot for a jury, but I think there'll be a lot of other evidence as well. I'm not sure that there will be one silver bullet or a smoking gun. This might be death by 1,000 paper cuts, in the sense that once you look at the totality of the evidence, at least insofar as it's suggested in the indictment, I think there could be a lot there to convince a jury. But of course, you have to convince 12 people, and this is going to be a jury of Americans. And most Americans, whether they love him or hate him, probably already have their mind made up about Donald Trump, the politician, but now they're going to have to think about Donald Trump, the defendant, in a court of law. And there, I think it remains to be seen what the jury will hear, what they will consider, and then how they will ultimately determine his guilt or innocence.
Professor James Long, thank you so much indeed for your analysis.